the CryptoKeeper, and BlockchainCrusader. Welcome to Debate Crypto.
Welcome to Debate Crypto, guys. We are super excited about today. We have the one and only Ben Armstrong. You might know him better as Bitboy Crypto. So we're super excited to have him on. Over the next hour, we're going to dive into some of his personal life, and we're going to ask some of the hard questions, Ben, like what it's like to be the supreme leader of the XRP army. I think that would be a tough role to fill. So smash up the likes, guys. If you're in the live stream, just in the live chat, just X out of there and do that for us. It would be super appreciated. So Ben, kicking off, we need to know, you've got the Pluto Alliance, right?
Yeah.
And that's your NFT project. So your last name's Armstrong. We're actually wondering, is your uncle actually Neil Armstrong? And you have info for us as to whether we really went to the moon.
Well, that's a great question. When I was a kid, like people would ask me a lot, are you related to Neil Armstrong? And then as I started getting a little more into adulthood, they started changing to, are you related to Lance Armstrong? Which was really fun for a while until it wasn't. And so now we're back to Uncle Brian. Brian Armstrong from Coinbase is my actual uncle, and I am his daddy.
That's great. I could see the evolution of that last name being fun and then not so fun and then fun and then not so fun. So let's kick off getting a little bit to know you personally, Ben. So let me ask you this. The world knows you as the crypto YouTuber and crypto entrepreneur. But tell me, like, if someone was to ask you, who is Ben Armstrong, how would you answer that question?
Who is Ben Armstrong? Well, it's one of those things when you look back on your life and you go through a lot of evolutions, and it's really important to kind of put that into context. Which phase of Ben Armstrong was I in at that time? Like when I was a kid, I grew up and I was, always in trouble, not necessarily like doing really bad stuff, but always like talking too much or, class clown, things like that. And so I remember my fifth grade teacher called my mom in for a parent teacher conference and told her that she had raised a circus clown. Now, unfortunately, my mom didn't have the hopium to think like, oh, maybe one day he'll be a YouTuber, because YouTube didn't exist. So, got a little bit older, and I went through a lot of, I had a lot of problems with addiction in my teenage and early 20s years. And so really who I am, if you were to ask like, who has been Armstrong? Like, I'm a guy who shouldn't be here. I almost died. I was in a coma for 3 days, drug overdose. I was under arrest. I went through like a lot of stuff when I was 24 years old. And then I went to rehab for 2 years. And I know it's a long time, but I need a lot of help. And I came out better on the other side. So, I'm a person who's been through a lot of struggles, but has always managed to keep fighting and come out on the other side of that. And, I'm a person that likes to help people. And for years and years and years, I worked in the addiction recovery world as executive director, program director, a teacher, a lay counselor, if you will. Helped a lot of people through addiction problems. And so, when my passion really changed from helping people with addiction into, getting into crypto, it is interesting, like looking back, like it was really kind of a natural, change from helping people with their personal problems to helping people with their personal finance. And of course, I'm not a financial advisor, but
Right.
Now we help people at BitBoy Crypto. Our mission statement is empowering people to find financial freedom through crypto assets. So really, like, I'm just a guy who's been through a lot of change in my life. I've came through on the other side, and now I like to help people. I like to give back what I learned and what I kind of earned through my recovery to other people.
Man, that's so fantastic. I can tell you, I have literally been through, it sounds like exactly what you were just talking about as it relates to addiction and recovery and going through the whole thing, right? And I actually, when I first started following you, I don't remember what video it was, but I've been in crypto since 2017, so has Miguel. But when I first started following you, I heard you talk about that one day, and I was like, wow, I love the fact that he's open about that. And it actually gave me a little bit of courage when talking to all of my people. It started on TikTok. Now we've kind of come over to YouTube to just be open about it. And I feel like people are very, very receptive to the fact that you can turn your life around. You can be a different person. And I think it's freaking fantastic. And it really, really helps me to want to strive to just continue pressing forward in this new journey in my life. Cause I love it. I love it. So would you consider that to be overcoming addiction? Would you consider that to be your biggest accomplishment in life right now?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, like, because here's the thing. I always say, I talk about this a good bit when, I get on this topic, which is a lot of people always say, they're like, what is the greatest day of your life? Well, you look professionally and say, well, I hit 1 million subscribers. That was incredible. Became the largest crypto channel. We still are in America, but there is one channel that kind of outgrows a little bit. But overall, our community is the largest by a long shot over everybody else. I can look at those dates and be like, oh, those are really cool dates, really big things that happen. When I hit 100,000 subscribers, that was a huge deal, especially after years of not having any success on YouTube to blow up like we did. A lot of people would say, okay, but like from a family perspective, like the day I got married was the greatest day of my life, or the day my first child was born, or the dates all my children were born, greatest day of my life. None of that is true for me. I have a wife and I love her a lot. I have some kids. I love them with all of my heart and soul. I've got a lot of cool professional goals. The most important day of my life was the day I went into rehab, because without going into that and changing my life, literally nothing else after this happens. BitBoy Crypto is not a thing.
Yeah.
My family is not a thing. Graduating college was not a thing. None of those were a thing before that happened. So it was the most important day of my life. The biggest accomplishment in my life, especially like, it's funny when you're going in rehab. Like I was in rehab, like I said, for a long time, 10 months in a program called No Longer Bound in Cumming, Georgia. And then 10 months there as an intern before I moved on to work in a employment capacity in recovery for a while. The thing is, while you're there and you're looking at all the other people you're there with, who are all people from crazy backgrounds and, very diverse and different life stories. And you're just sitting there thinking to yourself, while you're in here and everybody's sober, you're like, this guy's going to make it. This guy's going to make it. This guy's going to make it. We're all going to make it. Everybody's going to stay sober. And then, 15 years later in my sobriety, I look back and so many of the people that I were in there with, not only did they not succeed, about half of them are dead. And so just being able to get through that and survive and come out on the other side stronger, it definitely is, by far my greatest accomplishment, I would say.
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear, man. And those struggles definitely make you a better person at the end of the day. So after having such a massive following, right, on all social media platforms, what would be one thing that you would say you kind of dislike about the social media game?
Oh God, that's easy. That's really easy. The thing I hate more than anything are the false accusations that get levied towards us. Like, it is so frustrating when you're a good moral person that like is thinking about your audience and at all times trying to help these people gain a footing in this new world, this cutting edge technology. And you get all these people accusing you of like pump and dumps and doing undisclosed sponsorships and doing this and doing that. And literally zero of it is true. And it is so hard for me because I'm a fighter. Like, I want to go at people, but then you realize there's no win in it. There is no win for me to go on Twitter and argue with some random guy that's got 7 followers, or even some other idiot that's got more followers. There's no reason for me to go and argue with these people, because in their minds, they've already made up the decision. I say this a lot. I say that the people that find it so hard to believe that you could have a certain power and not use it in a negative moral capacity, they're the people that would use it in a negative moral capacity. So we understand when we talk about projects and we bring awareness, we understand the prices of projects will go up a lot of times, right? So it would be advantageous of us from a financial perspective to buy that coin right before a video and then the price goes up and sell it. Like, it'd be financially advantageous for us, but that's not advantageous for us over the long term. And I think in the crypto, people have been so focused on a short-term mindset that they can't wrap their mind around, number one, having that power and not doing it because it's wrong, because it's wrong. But number two, not having a long-term perspective to understand all my followers would get wrecked and then I would lose my influence. And that is not something I'm ever willing to make a trade-off. And people like, this marketing sheet came out. It's really our marketing sheet, that came out. We turned down 99.9% of projects that come to us, 99.9% we turn down. The ones that we do, we disclose in the videos, and it's like, guys,
and they still come after you. Yeah,
they still come after me and they say, oh, every video he's ever done is, has sponsorships in. You think I don't understand the repercussions of the SEC and lying and doing in this industry? You think I don't understand the repercussions of lying to your audience? I do. And I see the long term, and I have a family. I don't want to gain what I've lost, or I don't want to lose what I've gained over the years. So it's like the idiocy of these people. It's so funny. Like, they masquerade as these white knights, And in reality, it's the
Yep.
opposite. They're actually the most toxic people. And you can't reason with them because they've already made up their mind. Let me tell you how this works. At some point, somebody takes a seed and they plant it in somebody's brain through through Twitter or TikTok or whatever it may be. And they say, oh, this guy, like, here's a great example. Okay. At some point, somebody said that every deal that we have, we take 2% of the tokens. Where did they come up with this? Where in the world do they come up with this idea? What happened is some guy on Twitter at some point tweeted it, and then they used that as a reference for facts. Like some random guy tweeted this random idea that he had to his brain that's 100% false.
Yeah.
And then people use that as a reference point to prove that it's true. It's circular logic and it makes no sense. So that is the thing that frustrates me the most about social media and being in this space is all of the false accusations, and you can't really fight against them. And it's so frustrating because we try so hard. Like we go so far out of our way whenever we do sell projects. Like we have made sales before in the history of our portfolio.
Yeah, business is
got to make money.
Business.
Exactly.
We go so far out of our way to make sure we never budget price, even when we lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in some case by not selling all at one time. And our employees know that. They see that. They're like, what in the world are all these people saying when they see how far we go out of our way? And it is nice to have, I've got 35 employees and they're like family, you know? And so it is so nice to have like other people that kind of bear that burden with us. But you just got to understand, like, there are bad people out there and they want to smear your name. It might be because of jealousy. It's not always jealousy. It could just be hatred. It could be because they got that one seed planted in their brain and they've taken that as a fact when in reality, it is not a fact. So that's
like in
definitely
Batman. Like in Batman, some people just want to see the world burn, right?
100%.
Yeah, man. The trolls, man. The trolls are disgusting online, right? We have nowhere the following you have, and the amount of trolls that you get on TikTok. That's my God, dude. The comments, everybody, and it's like in the crypto game, like reputation, right? Not scamming your audience is 100% the biggest thing. It's like if you scam your audience will not be there tomorrow.
Yep.
So 100%. And there's always going to be people that are unhappy. So the drama is definitely one of the most gross things out there. But talking about the drama, so what makes you think that you can beat Joe Rogan in badminton for a whole Bitcoin?
Well, it didn't have anything to do with Joe Rogan. I'm just phenomenal at badminton. Okay? That's why person who posted that tweet said bad mitten, not bad. It's actually BADMINTON, but she actually made a typo and put bad mitten. Like you got two mittens, one of them's got a hole in it, so it's a bad mitten. But yeah, I can definitely beat Joe Rogan in badminton. I'm not scared to admit this. I could probably beat Joe Rogan in a lot of things. I could not beat him in a fight. So I've got to find some other things. I'm pretty sure he would whip me there.
Yeah, no doubt. I was cracking up when I heard that. I was like, what? Who is out like practicing badminton? I obviously know that you're not out actively doing that, but I think it would be.
Well, I do. No, not in about a year because we've been so busy, but I do play generally like a lot of pickleball, which is it uses a ball instead in a shorter paddle, but the reflexes are about the same. So I'm not rusty, what I'll tell you.
That's super interesting. So let's dive into let's dive into crypto a little bit. So a lot of people, hear you on your YouTube channel, and if you just jump in, they're hearing, they see someone that has this massive portfolio, and just people see it as maybe being, well, I'll never be there, so I can't really relate with that. Well, I believe that you started probably where everyone else did. So talk to me about that. When you first got into crypto, can I be personal and say, how much money did you invest in crypto, and where'd you start?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, it's kind of like a two-pronged story. We have the tragedy of BitBoy Crypto before he was BitBoy Crypto. And then we have the success. So tragedy goes back to when I first got into Bitcoin. It's been in 2012. First Bitcoin I bought was $12. And I bought a bunch of Bitcoin over a year period, and I used it to pay for a service, which was a posting system for Craigslist, because I was in the event ticket business and I was selling a lot of that stuff, or selling tickets on Craigslist. So the guy got his website taken down and had to take Bitcoin as a payment processor. And so I spent over $10,000 on Bitcoin that first year, but I was using it to pay for a service. I had a little bit of money left in the account. November of 2013, it blew up to a few $1,000s. I sold it, took family on vacation, paid some bills off. And 2014, February, Mt. Gox crashes, and I'm like, Bitcoin's over. I'm glad I got out of it, whatever. Had a little bit of money left in Mt. Gox, but not much. And so what happened was is, you know, I pretty much wrote it off. And so for 2015 and 2016, I really just watched it. I bought Bitcoin a little bit here. I bought it a little bit there, but wasn't really making big moves, wasn't super interested in it, still didn't think it was going to be a lasting thing. And then in 2017, when the price pumped, I started adding up all the money I should have had that I didn't have. And that's when I decided to go full in on crypto. And so I started with just a couple $1,000s, you know, maybe even less than that, maybe less than 1,000. I rode that up to, you know, I think we got almost to 7,000 or 8,000 in 2017 because I really started buying around, I think around September to October-ish. I was right there with the hype with everybody else, had the knowledge, more knowledge than other people had, but I wasn't putting the dollars in. And then, of course, my plan was to make $1 million by the summer, and then I lost all of it. And then I kept putting more money in, and I got hacked at some point. I lost 2,500 of what I had. And so, you know, basically what happened is I decided my route in crypto was going to be to go all in on what we call selling the shovels, right? You got Henry Wells. This was a guy back in the gold rush who decided he would, you know, instead of mining gold, he was going to sell the shovels. He was going to sell the flashlights. He was going to sell the mining equipment, the actual literal rock mining equipment.
Yeah.
And, you know, he actually ended up becoming super rich. And that's where Wells Fargo came from. That's why the Stagecoach is their logo. Wells Fargo started off as a guy selling resources to people that were looking to make money in this new landscape, right? 90% of the people that went out to mine for gold, they didn't find gold. Only 10% did. But Henry Wells got extremely wealthy and, you know, was able to do stuff. I wish he wouldn't have started a bank. It'd be cooler if he started something else. But,
Right.
you know, that's what I decided I wanted to do. I want to go all into crypto. And I wanted to be able to sell the resources and the education. And of course, you know, we do have BitLab Academy right now, but back then it was more just send free videos out and get attention and see what we could turn that into down the road. So in 2018, I actually sold my house. So my story is a little bit different than everybody else's because I was banking on the future. Instead of taking that money that I made for my house and putting it into crypto, I took that money and I took a 2-year period where I built this channel from the ground up without a job and without making any money. So I was hardly making any money. I mean, my biggest YouTube check until February of 2020 was $200.
What?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Now we do 150,000 a month on YouTube ads alone. Okay. So my going all into crypto was not taking every dollar that I had and jumping into. It was, I know now I missed out early. I missed out on this. This is the future. I'm going to do everything I can to sell the shovels and I'm going to go full force in this. And so it took about 2 years before I got to a stable place with the channel to where I could start piling money back into crypto. But see, there's not that much difference between somebody that sells their house to put all the money in crypto and then somebody who sells their house to go all in on crypto content creation because I believed in the future of the space. And so it really wasn't until 2020 where I became very stable and was able to not, you know, number one, start moving money into crypto, but number two, running a crypto channel outside the YouTube ads. All the money you make is in crypto, whether it's affiliate stuff or referrals or whether it's sponsored videos that we always disclose, yada, yada, yada. Like I'm getting paid in crypto. So I was doing, you know, videos for a few $1,000s in 2020 at certain points, but I was getting paid in ETH when it was $200. Yeah. So now for each one of those ETH that was, you know, $200, it went all the way up to, you know, 4,900. So when you start doing that math, that was because of my belief in crypto. That's why I threw everything away. My wife, God bless her, she's been supportive through the whole thing, but there were definitely times in the first 2 years where we didn't know if we were going to make it. So that's what happened for me. That's not the norm because most people aren't crazy enough to go full into something that they're not really getting a return on immediately. But it's so obvious to me, and it's been so obvious to me since 2017. Yeah. This is where the future is coming. So we look at these stories now about, you know, Odell Beckham taking all of his salary in Bitcoin today, it said. You've got other people, Aaron Rodgers taking part of his salary, Tom Brady, David Ortiz, Shohei Ohtani. Like you see these athletes, we dreamed about that stuff in 2017, but now you've asked for it 4 years later, and it came just like we thought that it would. And so, you know, these are the moments of validation where you say everything that I did was worth it. But it was hard. I mean, there were definitely times where I wanted to quit. I almost quit in January 2020, which is right before we started to blow up. So yeah, it was very dark during that time because I wasn't making any money. We were struggling paying our bills, struggling paying for Christmas for our kids. And I'm sitting there like, Bitcoin should be going up by now. And it wasn't. And so I was really starting to question my life decisions, but thank God I'm too stubborn to quit anything.
That's awesome, dude. That's an amazing story. I mean, Nick and I talk about stuff like that, our stories of how we got started, right? And I told him, I was like, when I got into crypto in 2017, my mentality automatically switched to get rich or die trying, right? Like this is the opportunity, right? The once in a lifetime, never gonna see it again until like sometime my grandkids might see an opportunity somewhat equivalent to this. But there is nothing else like what is happening in crypto right now and what's we've been experiencing. Like you said, the things we dreamt about in 2017 are happening now. Nations accepting Bitcoin. It's wild. Nobody even thought that would happen this year, and it's already happening around the world.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm super excited about where things are headed, but you know, we look at the market right now, Ben, and that kind of leads me into the next question that I have for you. We look at the market right now, and we've all expected to see something a lot different than maybe what's going on right now. Are you currently concerned, or at least a little birdie, you know, in the back of your head, telling you that either maybe we just topped at 69K again, or that your boy, what's his, is it Carl, or is it who talks about the extended cycles all the time?
That's Benjamin Cowan.
Benjamin Cowan, or are you thinking Benjamin Cowan might be more on the right track? What's kind of your thought there?
Well, you know, people have to understand how many things have to go into play to get this market to go where it's got to go.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not as simple as, you know, people buy Bitcoin, it goes up. I mean, at the heart of it, yes, fundamentally, that's what happens. But to be able to, when the market cap is over $1 trillion, to be able to get Bitcoin to move all the way to 100K, which would put, you know, the market cap somewhere around, I guess, $2 trillion, just the individual Bitcoin market cap. I mean, that's a lot. You know, that's a lot, especially when, you know, overall the entire crypto market is barely, you know, is just a shade. Well, it's 2.6 trillion today. So the Bitcoin market cap has got to blow up to 80% of the entire crypto market today. And we're talking about a pretty short period of time.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that have to happen to get that money flow coming into Bitcoin. And especially in a time when, look, let's be honest about the retail sentiment. The retail attention is other places. It is not in Bitcoin. And I've been wondering if that is having an effect on things. The retail attention right now is on NFTs, metaverse, gaming tokens. Yeah. And you know this from being on TikTok. You know, on TikTok, that's the rage. That's what people are talking about. We're going to start talking more about metaverse ourselves, you know, or myself on TikTok, because this is where the attention is going. And so, you know, Bitcoin just seems a little boring to the newer generation. They're growing up with digital currency already, and they see things that are more exciting. And I think that is playing a factor. However, I still do believe that by the end of this year, we do top out. Now, with each passing day, I get less and less confident in that.
Right.
But there's a lot of factors into play to get enough people, the retail sentiment and also the institutional money to flow in at the same time to push the price up. So I still do not believe in a lengthening cycle. Now, we'll define lengthening cycle. This is where Benjamin Cowan is the leader of this theory, and it's basically where he says that each cycle is getting longer and longer. I mean, that's obvious in the term,
right?
But that doesn't mean January or February. I mean, that means late quarter two. He believes over the summer is when this thing will top out. So if we do get extended a month or two, that's not necessarily lining up with the theory. It would have to be extended, you know, basically like 6 months longer than we think it should go in order to really nail that down. And my basis for not buying into this is simply based on the fact that how can you have a lengthening cycle when the fundamental reason for the price of Bitcoin going up, which is the halving cycle and the cut in production, it doesn't change. It doesn't change dates.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what the price point is or the adoption level. The halving overvalues Bitcoin in the short term. And that's why you end up getting these massive bull cycles and these massive bear markets. Right. So I see virtually no way that we're, you know, not in a bear market next year. When exactly that starts, I mean, you know, I don't know. I would have told you couple months ago, I would have bet every Bitcoin I had on the fact I would have thought it would have been by the end of this year. But now with each passing day, he may end up being right. Maybe he'll be right. And you know what I'll do? I'll come on and I'll say he was right. 100%. Yeah, I mean, obviously I know what I predicted and what I've set, what I've been told. And a lot of my predictions comes, if you look at a lot of my predictions today, they're different from things that I said earlier in the year. That's because we do have somebody who I talked to a pretty good bit, Mr. X, we call him. And this is a very high level, very powerful person. And, it's where a lot of my information comes from these days. And a lot of that information, it's very well thought out. And it's like, why would you just believe somebody that, approaches you and says all this stuff? Well, when you see the nuanced, language that's used, is different than anybody you've ever talked to, for sure. Right. And so, he says by the end of this year, and, if it goes an extra month, it is what it is. Like I said, he keeps alluding to the fact that this is harder to pull off than people think. There's a lot of moving parts. You got the government regulation side of things that have to be in a line. You have to have the retail institutional money that has to be aligned. You have to have no gigantic disasters, like no black swan events occur in the middle of it. So there's kind of a lot to hold together.
Yeah. So talking about that, right? Talking about the bear market, talking about disasters. If we are going into a bear market, right? We all believe that there's going to be a big bear market coming up. How do you see inflation, right? We keep hearing inflation coming up now. How do you think that will affect the crypto markets?
Inflation is a lie. That's
okay.
Inflation is a lie.
Tell me more.
The word of the day is deflation. I've been talking to my audience about this since June. I told them in June, wait until the fall. In the fall, you are going to see more talk of inflation than you've ever seen before. Does nobody find it a little odd that the government is telling us to be careful of inflation?
That's such a great point.
Yes.
Nobody thinks that weird. What have you believed the government on in the last 2 years?
Nothing.
Nothing. I saw an article yesterday that said that was trying to speculate on the idea that inflation was good for us, and and here's why.
Yeah, it's so crazy. But here's what people have to understand. Okay, if we keep going at the rate of inflation we are going at, we lose the reserve currency status for the world within 2 years from now. Do you think that's what politicians want? Do you not think that our politicians are smart enough to realize that and now granted, 90% of these politicians are just told what to say and do. So it's really people above them that are making these decisions. But the fact is, we're not going to lose the reserve currency. I actually believe we're going to switch to the digital dollar. This will be the reserve currency of the world. It will go, if you look at that chart that shows like started off in Portugal, and then it went here, then it went, I think it went to Spain maybe, and then it went to I think the Netherlands had it at some point. Whatever it is, we ended up with the United States and the dollar. The next one will be the digital dollar. It will get its own classification, which I believe USDC is going to be involved in. But the fact is, well, if you think about it, if that occurs, now you fix a lot of the supply and demand problems with the dollar, because suddenly the digital dollar is available borderless across the world, and everybody can instantly get access to USDC, which would be the digital dollar. So you would inflate the demand immensely while not really moving the supply. Now you fix that. A lot of people think we're heading to hyperinflation. 0% chance we ever see hyperinflation in the United States. 0%.
So how do you see this deflation thing playing out? Do you see it as something like that would be an economic destroyer, right? Kind of resetting the whole system?
The deflation is the economic destroyer. The deflation is the economic destroyer. It is the black swan event. Go back and look what happened right before the Great Depression. Okay. Look at what happened in Japan when they moved to deflation. Look across the world when these things start moving to deflation. What you see is economic disaster. That is the economic. Here's why. Because when you move to deflation, and this is why it's very sneaky, because at first it feels good. Because you go in. When's the last time you bought some milk? When's the last time you bought some milk?
Yesterday.
A few days ago, yeah.
Or some gas.
Right. Oh, gas is killing me.
Oh,
how does it feel to pay those prices on things?
Terrible,
right? Okay. Imagine if all of a sudden you go to the store tomorrow and your gallon of milk is $1.40 and your gas is down to, now I don't know if gas really equates to retail products, but just for example,
Yeah.
you go and you see gas is all of a sudden back down to $1.25 per gallon. Okay.
Feels great.
Feels great, right? Well, let's use the milk as an example. Let's say you have Mayfield, who's a big milk provider down here in the Southeast. I don't know how national they are. Maybe they are. But the fact is that the milk price lowers, okay? When deflation happens and the price of the milk goes down, people feel good, but who gets hurt? The business. Mayfield itself gets hurt because now it's not bringing in as much money it was bringing before. What happens when businesses stop bringing in the same amount of money? They have to make job cuts. So what deflation actually does is it makes it to where companies are forced to start laying people off. And you guys know right now, right? Nobody can find nobody. No businesses can find people to work, right?
Yeah.
My Arby's, my local Arby's, I went to it like 6 weeks ago, and I went through the drive-through at 6 o'clock on a Sunday, and they were closed. I said, "Sorry, we haven't got anybody to work." Closed.
Yep. True story. Yep.
How many places do you see like that? The employed have power right now over the unemployed, or I'm sorry, over the employers. The employed have power over the employers right now because they have all the leverage. People are wanting to switch to remote work. Well, that's great. That's fine. You can do it. You can go find somewhere because there is a surplus of job openings, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is going to bite people in the behind here pretty soon because we are going to move back to a place where the employers have the power again. That's the way capitalism works, right? Like you look at the people claiming $15 an hour minimum wage. Let's go do it. You know what happens now? You go to McDonald's and there's not a cashier. You put everything in on a robot. The employers always win. That's the way it's set up. That's why people are encouraged to start their own businesses. That's the only way that you win, that you're not making money for other people. So when we see that happen, we kick into the deflation, the prices go down, the profits go down, the people get laid off. We are now going to be back in a position where there are way less jobs than people to work them. And I think that's why, on a side note, it's really important to start looking into ways you can make money in a digital economy, because that is going to be safe. Whereas, your regular jobs are also, and you know what it'll do also is it'll make it where we move closer and faster towards AI and things like that. But lastly, I want to get back to the point about hyperinflation. We won't ever have hyperinflation in the United States because the rest of the world will not allow it to happen. If the United States economy turned into Venezuela, the entire world economy would crash because they depend too much on us giving assistance to other countries, paying debts to other countries, and really being a large component of the world trade. If we were removed all of a sudden out of that and all of a sudden dollars were worth nothing, yes, reserve currency would go somewhere else, but the world economy would take a major hit. So the world would have to bail us out. So we'll never go through hyperinflation. That's a narrative. That's a talking point. It makes sense when you look at the parabolic movement of the money supply chart. But we are going to see that thing go. Well, let me do that again. Go flat. It's going to flatline. So,
well, let me ask you this, Ben. So I own a construction company, which side note, I think is always going to be necessary. We're always going to need to be building. But I have the same problem as far as finding good work and keeping those people. So part of what we're doing, building this YouTube channel, is wanting to have another source of income that ultimately, I hope, in conjunction with crypto, can be my main source of income. And so as I look at the metaverse stuff that's going on, I see is a massive opportunity coming. And so it's kind of a two-part question. My first question is, are we moving towards a society that is saying, stay at home and figure out how to make your own money, here? And then the second part of the question is, what does that look like for our society?
Yeah, it looks like Ready Player One. Am I right?
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. Jobs are going the way the dinosaur. I know you say like, a construction company is always safe. Well, today it's safe.
Yeah.
The way that it's done will massively change. So we're going to have robots building houses much faster.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
much
3D
faster.
printing houses.
Yeah. They'll throw an entire building up in a week, probably. I mean, it's crazy to think about. Now, that may be an exaggeration, but in the short term, but one day it won't be an exaggeration. There's almost no job. The only jobs that are safe, let me tell you the only jobs that are safe in this new economy: personal interaction jobs. We won't need nearly as many teachers because you'll be able to do Zooms with massive amounts of students.
Yeah.
Right. And then you pawn it off on the parents to do kind of the legwork if their kid's falling behind.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor, pastor of a church. You're probably not going to be sitting there listening to Rosie the robot give you a sermon. You know what I mean? You're probably not going to do that. I'm certainly not listening to Sophia the robot. She gives me weird vibes. But personal interaction, counselors, you're going to still need counselors. Well, I don't know, social workers, possibly, DFAX workers. You're going to look at jobs that have to have human interaction, engagement, and supervision to be able to allow that job to go through. Without that, everything else is going the way of AI and the way of robots. You can name a job, and I'll tell you, it's going there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, AI, automation, metaverse, like people are getting hired in the metaverse to participate inside the metaverse. Metaverse jobs are going to be a huge thing. I've talked about it with Nick, right? Yeah. About teachers being in the metaverse, like you said, teaching classes. Everything is moving towards the digital world, and it's a digital revolution happening, whether it's planned or it came out, just natural. It's just an evolution that is inevitable.
Yeah. And and the number one thing that is going to drive all this, the number one part of the economy is going to be video games. I know it sounds crazy. I've said this for years and years and years. The number one sector of making money in the world is going to be video games. Over 3/4 of the world are already considered to be gamers. Okay. Which means at some point during a year, you'll averagely play a video game. So not everybody is a 12-year-old wizard on Fortnite, but everybody plays games to a certain extent. Now, when do people tend to play more games? When they're at home more. Mm-hmm. What are we moving to? A world where people are spending more time at home. Look, here's the facts. I'm not a universal basic income guy, but it was really interesting to listen to Andrew Yang and listen to him talk about when he was running for president several years ago about the future of the economy. And jobs are going to be gone. What are we going to do? We're going to have to find a way and a place to be able to churn value, right? What is our current trade system in the world? It's really just imaginary connections. Not imaginary, that's not the right word. They're fabricated connections between different sectors to create value, right? Like early on, what did we have? We had bartering, okay? We had bartering. Everything beyond bartering is a made-up money system. So in video games, we can produce that better than we have anywhere else before because everything is in our control there. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all happens. But I believe, I don't know about the dystopian future of Ready Player One. I mean, I ain't looking too far off right now. But outside of that, I definitely do believe that we are heading towards a world like that. Now, how interactive will it be? What will the mix be between actual metaverse VR and then AR, augmented reality? We don't know the answer to those questions yet, but we've got to find a place to be able to make value when the robots take over.
Yeah, I mean, play to earn. Play to earn is the biggest thing, right? That's the biggest focus on metaverse games is because they want to make money, right? You see these people in the Philippines playing Axie Infinity, earning a full month salary playing a video game at home. So that's definitely the way of the future.
I think that it's super interesting too, as it relates to crypto, that the generation that we see now that are born with a cell phone or an iPad in front of them is used to making these digital connections. They are used to just say, like their mom's got the iPad and they give them the iPad and they know what button to push to ultimately purchase what it is that they want to purchase. They don't understand the actual transaction that's happening there. And so I think what it leads us towards is this play to earn, this work from home, this meta. It breeds it because the children already understand the idea of crypto, just in a little bit different, in a little bit different fashion.
Well, here's something that really blew my mind. So we recently did this documentary called "The Internet Is Rotting Away."
I saw that. That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, it was it turned
That
out
was super. Yeah, it was
yeah.
fantastic.
We want to do more like that. But one of the lines that was in the script for that my head of content development, Nick Tamonti, came up with was, think about this. Think about the fact that there are people on the earth right now, teenagers, who have never in their lives held a physical photo that they've taken.
Wow.
Never held a physical photo that they've taken. That will blow your mind. That really shows you how quickly this transition has occurred right in front of us without us even knowing it. Everything is already digital. It's just a transition to get it into a place.
And how many people are not going to ever drive in the future, right? Our kids are not going to possibly going to be driving. Self-driving cars are going to be the thing, right? Taking Uber, you're not even going to be buying a car anymore. It's just going to be like, I just have an Uber service that comes, picks me up, and takes me there. I don't have to learn how to drive. My wife has a 16, 17-year-old cousin. There, said, I don't need to drive. I can just take an Uber everywhere. Just got his license because his parents forced him, but he hates driving. He just rather Uber everywhere.
So crazy.
I think it's going to be crazy. And so let me ask you this: as the supreme leader of the XRP army, I think this is important. Value is going to need to be transferred, right, from place to place to place. We're coming into the metaverse. I guess my question would be: is XRP going to play a part in the metaverse as an exchange of value, or is it going to be strictly more towards what it is now, and that it is related to the banks?
Well, I think you have to look at, kind of the Ripple blockchain and look a little further, look at Flare Network, look at Songbird, which is kind of the canary network, or it is the canary network for Flare Network, similar to, Kusama and Polkadot. I think when you look at Flare Network and what its capabilities are, we could certainly see a lot of that. There are now, XRP wrap tokens that are going, similar to like we see Bitcoin wrap for Ether. There are other coins wrapped for Ethereum on the Flare network. So that definitely is going to play a role. However, when it comes to XRP itself, I mean, this is the banker coin. I mean, this really is the banker coin. Banks are going to fully adopt XRP. This argument that people made back in 2018, 2019, well, you don't even have to own XRP to use their products. And there were many more banks using their products than actually using XRP. Well, Ripple went back to the drawing board and came up with this new structure for their products. They got rid of XVIA, XCurrent, XRapid, moved over to ODL and RippleNet. And they've now designed it where that's not going to really be possible in the future. They're going to have to be using XRP to take to use the Ripple products. Now, RippleNet, here's what a lot of people will say. They'll say, well, anybody can come up with a system that the banks can use and they can send stuff back and forth on blockchain. No, it's not true. That's 100% false. Ripple has worked on this user interface for years and years and years, and the system and this infrastructure, that's where the value is. The value is within the structure that they've set up to make all this happen. The value itself is not in the XRP token. The XRP token is pretty worthless, in my opinion, outside of its use for RippleNet, right? And for the overall Ripple plan to get all the banks integrated. The infrastructure that they have is so undervalued. It is ridiculous. People don't understand in the world of archaic banking how hard it is to put in these new systems and not only we talk about interoperability in crypto. What about interoperability in banks, right? Yeah. There's not very much outside of maybe an ATM device that kind of uses workarounds in order to get everything synced up. Yeah, that's where the value of XRP is. So I don't see XRP as a huge coin in the metaverse, but Flare Network, which is on the Ripple blockchain, I can see that being used for DeFi, and DeFi is going to play a big role in the metaverse. But you really can't understate the value of the system the Ripple Labs has set up.
So, follow-up question with XRP. Do you think XRP is going to miss this cycle bull run with the SEC keeping it suppressed, or you think it's going to get resolved before the top happens?
I kind of think that, this was supposed to be over in September, and it did not work. It is not over, obviously, as you guys see. The plan was for this. Look, also, this is all smoke and mirrors. I mean, this has already been decided what's going on. When the settlement comes out, they're going to be attacked for their marketing. It's not going to be considered a security, and it's going to make things boom. I kind of almost think that we're waiting on this Ripple lawsuit to be settled to allow the bull run to go on. So if we do stick around at these prices for Bitcoin forever, it might just be because the Ripple case has not been decided. People, once again, XRP is so misunderstood. People underestimate the importance of this case in the entire landscape of crypto. If XRP is considered a security, you could go down the list and you could find a way to consider everything in crypto almost a security, or at least anything that did not do a fair airdrop launch, which they could probably find a way to work that in as well into a security. Okay. But any project that had an ICO at all, any kind of token sale, any kind of IDO, even if it's an initial DEX offering, they can be considered securities. So we're not actually going to get precedent from this case because everything is going to be sealed. But if Ripple was found guilty and it was considered to be a security, in that case, there would be precedent across, the rest of the crypto landscape for the SEC to go after different projects, and everyone would be terrified, and the entire bull run would be frozen. And there are people that are sitting out there and they're waiting for this decision to come through to decide what they want to do in crypto. And so that's kind of what I see happening. I do not think it's going to miss the bull run. I think if anything else, it's going to pause the bull run until it's done. That may be what we're seeing right now.
Exactly what I was going to ask you up next. Will that be the delay factor that pushes the bull run out even further?
I tell you what's going to be frustrating. It's going to be frustrating if it's going to be very frustrating if it turns out that, this Ripple case doesn't get done until April of next year and we stay paused for 5 or 6 months. And then Benjamin Cowan's up being right about the stupid lengthening cycle because of the Ripple lawsuit. That sure would come back to bite me in the butt. It's all fun, though. I mean, look, here's the fact. The fact is, but just back on the lengthening cycle, if we have a lengthened cycle and he is right, guess what? We get 8 more months of a bull run. We get 8 more months of people paying attention to crypto. That's a good thing. It's a win-win. A lot of it's just personal pride at this point.
8 more months of buying opportunities, bro.
Yeah, but
averaging, right?
But I will say, have a retort on that. We have, and I know you do too, Ben. One of the things that we preach to our followers is game plan. You've got to get yourself educated so you can put together a game plan. Well, guess what? This is going to totally screw the pooch as it relates to my game plan if that were to happen. And so my question then would become, if we do move into this lengthening cycle, do you foresee anything that's really going to show us that is actually happening? Because I'm trying to get myself prepared myself. I know the followers want to. Do you see anything that would be like, hey, this is actually happening, where you would come on your live stream in the morning and say, listen, guys, this lengthening cycle is happening? Is there a press up? Is there something there that would tell us that?
Some type of metric?
Well, number one, I'm not selling until Bitcoin hits. Well, I will sell if it hits $90,000. We talked about scaling out a little bit,
right?
But I'm not selling until Bitcoin's close to $100,000, and I'm not selling Ethereum until it's close to $10,000, at least $8,000 where we start scaling out. Okay, So because of that, if we were to get to January, February, and we're still at $60,000 or $70,000, I believe with everything in my body that it's going to 100K. So if we get to February and we're still sputtering around and barely making a new all-time high and then crashing down a little bit and then this and then that, then I would say, pretty confidently he would probably be right. And let's, prepare for that. I'm not preparing for a date. I'm preparing for a number.
Okay.
So I believe we're going to $100,000 pretty much dead on.
Yeah.
No matter how long it takes to get it there, that is where I believe we're going to. And so we're looking to scale out based on numbers, not based on time frame. The most accurate time frame in history we've had has been the golden Bitcoin bull ratio, which I used for 2 years to say, most likely at the end of September, we should see the end of the bull run. Well, when we got close to the end of September, it was very apparent we're not at the end of the bull run. So you just have to constantly be able to, that's different because we have shows. And so we come on here and talk about our opinions. And so people are going to vilify us or crucify us if we're wrong about this or wrong about that. But as far as making a plan goes, you have to be flexible and you have to be willing to admit this was the best. Look, remember this. We've only got 12 years to go off of for everything. We only have one altcoin cycle to go off of. We're doing the best with the information that we have, but the amount that we have is a little, grain of sand on a beach compared to what they have in the traditional markets to be able to make determinations. So we're doing the most that we can do. but you have to be able to be flexible to change your plan on the fly and not be so stubborn that you're like, I said this was going to happen, so I'm definitely going to do this. You have to be fluid in a situation like this.
Yeah, the good friend of the channel, CVO Crypto, comes on Thursdays, and we do a TA Thursday. And he has this idea where Bitcoin's going to shoot up to about 100. It's going to have a massive correction down to about 70, and then propel back up to 250. What would you say to that? Because I think that that idea seems a little bit wild myself. What would you say to that idea?
I mean, the charts might bear that out. The charts might show that, but once again, like, people have to understand, there are forces at play that are very hard to control, but they all have similar goals in mind. Okay.
Yeah.
So if Bitcoin goes up to 250K or 300K, it's going to break markets. Okay.
Yeah.
What is this whole stablecoin regulation thing about? It's about not breaking markets, because if people can all of a sudden go into stablecoins and make 8% in a bear market, then what's going to happen is that no one is going to be using the bond market. Do you know what drives the entire world economy?
A bond market.
A bond market.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. They can't have that. That's what this regulation is against. That is just an example of, when I talk about all these things have to be in order, it's all of these markets and all of the plans of the global control system that does in fact exist. Is not a conspiracy. There
Right.
are people, and you can figure it out. I'm not going to tell you who they are, but you can figure out who these kinds of people are that control things and have controlled things for a long time.
Yeah.
And you can't have Bitcoin breaking any of your other markets, because as much money as these people make with Bitcoin, people say, well, if they own all this Bitcoin, why wouldn't they just want it to go to $1 million? Because now they lose all their money in the stock market, because everybody jumped out of the stock market to jump into that market, right? The same thing with real estate, the same thing with the bond market. They've got a balancing act, like a little puppeteer, to make, they literally are puppeteers, in a lot of ways, to make everything in order. That's why Bitcoin's not going to go to 250K. I thought for the last 2 years it would go that high, up until I started getting a little scratch into what's really happening in the world.
Right.
And there's no way they're going to allow it to go that high. The highest it possibly, in my wildest dreams, could go would be 150K. I think 120K is the more reasonable highest it can go. I think it'll end up less than 110K, because it just starts to break markets, and they can't have that. Very interesting. I saw a TikTok a guy made, not even a crypto guy, about the bond market. Do you know what the bond market just bumped up their returns to?
No, I don't.
7%.
What?
Yeah.
7%. To compete with stable coins.
It's a 6-month plan, and then they adjust it after 6 months, right? You can't make this stuff up. They just did this. Is a very special bond for U.S. for U.S. citizens. You take all your money. Well, not all your money. You can only make a maximum of $15,000 on it. Okay. Which, if you do the math, I guess that's putting in like 150 or 200K into a bond. Okay. There may be ways you can do it from different entities and take more advantage of it. But the fact is that 7% number is not an accident.
Yeah.
What are the stablecoins getting? 6 to 8%.
Yep.
So for 6 months, until they get the stablecoin regulation out, they're going to make sure that bond market stays afloat. Because what's safer, the bond market or stablecoins?
Yeah.
The bond market is the most safe investment in the world. It's backed by two things. A bond is backed by, number one, your country's existence. As long as your country continues to exist, and number two, it continues to tax its citizens, you will be paid back and get your interest. So obviously, neither one of those things are at risk at happening in the United States. So the bond market in the United States is the safest thing that there is. So they're trying already to compete with those stable coin. Meanwhile, in the next 6 months, they're going to regulate the fire out of stable coins and Celsius and Nexo and BlockFi, to where those returns are going to get pushed down to probably 2%. And then, what the bond market's going to do? They're going to set it at 3%.
Yep.
So, wild question here. We were talking about, puppeteers and puppet masters and dark forces. That's one of my favorite topics. That's why we have What If
I don't
Wednesday.
care about the sexuality of the frogs.
So my question is, do you believe, or do you have ever considered that maybe Bitcoin and the inception of cryptocurrencies was all planned out from some 3-letter agency somewhere around the world? Some group of people said, hey, maybe. So my question is, maybe Satoshi isn't this savior that we think he is, but maybe some type of planned organization that has made crypto the future by making us believe that we are taking power away from the banks.
It is an interesting theory. It's also wrong. So it's a very interesting theory. I mean, on its own merits, like it could be somewhat logical, but the fact is that's not true, and we know that is not true because who are the people that control the world? Like we're not getting into names here, but the banks and the institutions, they really control the world, right? The banks and the institutions are accumulating like crazy in 2019 and beyond. From 2019, well, let me phrase that. Out of the top 100 Bitcoin whales, 50% or more than 50% of them were created since 2019. How many people do you know have billions of dollars to start a new Bitcoin address?
I don't know any.
Banks. That's it.
Oh, well,
Banks and nations. They're the only ones that have that much money to be able to, in 2019, to start a new wallet and immediately put it in the top 100. Okay. So we know that those people and those institutions are trying to accumulate insane, and they've already missed out on projects like Cardano, where 71%, well, number one, almost all of it, like 90% of it, was launched fairly and not any teams or foundations to the general public. And that is one of the top, right below Ethereum and Solana, one of the top coins the institutions have been accumulating. Why? Because they missed it. We know that's not true. What you're saying is because so many of the institutions, the people on the people that would know about this stuff, because they're the ones that hand out the orders to the 3-letter agencies, because we know that they're trying to gain control through accumulation. That means they never had to control to begin with.
Amazing response. One last question before we begin to wrap it up from one of our followers here in the DCA fan for a long time. Are there any geopolitical risks that we should consider as a Bitcoin investor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, the number one thing to look at is that there aren't as many geopolitical risks with Bitcoin as are perceived risks of Bitcoin investing. Okay. When you look at environmental concerns and, look, that's a geopolitical topic right now. Countries disagree with the level at which they're going to, have involvement in climate accords and agreements and things like that. However, the oil industry is eventually going to all move towards, solar, environmentally friendly stuff. The environmental stuff is the new gold rush for people in oil. That they will all move over there in the next 50 years. But there's going to be a lot of countries arguing about that stuff. But it's all for show. Okay, it's all for show. These places don't really care about the environment. In fact, it's all about money and selling environmental products. The number two thing I would say Bitcoin mining in like China, for instance. Do y'all think that that China actually banned Bitcoin mining?
No, I don't.
They moved it around the world, so they got control in other countries, and they made it look like they're not as in control of the hash rate. Almost every another thing, you look at the Liberty pipeline. I think it was called. What was the pipeline called?
I think that's right. Yep.
Liberty pipeline.
Yeah.
When it was hacked, which that story is the sketchiest story I've ever read, and when you really look at everything involved in that, something stinks there.
Yeah.
But the fact is, we get all these things that seem to be like, oh, this is blamed on Bitcoin. Well, no, they were hackers. Like, they could have hacked anywhere and not accepted Bitcoin, and they still would have hacked it. It doesn't have anything to do with Bitcoin, but any good hacker is going to accept Monero for a job that big, not Bitcoin.
Exactly, right.
Yes,
Why would you take Bitcoin
so stupid.
out of all the privacy coins that exist there? If you have the ability of being a hacker to that extent and getting there, you're going to tell me they didn't know about privacy concerns when it came to Bitcoin transactions? Yeah. So instantly that was played out by the FBI, where they're coming out saying, hey, by the way, we were able to track them down and we retrieved it. So be careful out there, criminals, crypto criminals will catch you.
So here's along the short of the answer to that question. We have many different geopolitical things that are rising up. Now, if you live in a third world country or a dictatorship country, then you need to take your own personal security and safety at the utmost importance. It's like if you live in North Korea Well, yeah, you need to be careful if you're going to buy Bitcoin. You know what I mean? So in that sense, there are some geopolitical risks, but for most of us in the developed world, the real risk is believing the lies that you're being told. They're accumulating to control, and that's always the goal of the financial apparatus that exists in the world.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, guys, it has been a fantastic interview. Ben, thank you very much for coming
Thank
on.
you, man.
We
We
super
for having me.
appreciate it. We're a growing channel. I wanted to also thank you while I'm on here for, excuse me, for having me on to Debate Crypto on Tuesdays. Or I mean, to Debate Crypto. I'm kind of shouting out my own name here. To Around the Blockchain
Sure
on
thing.
Tuesdays. I super appreciate it. Crypto fam, if you are not following Ben Armstrong, BitBoy Crypto, his info is down in the description. X out of the live chat real quick. Smash up the likes. We love each and every one of you guys. And until next time, hodl
Hodl
like
like
it's
it's
hot.